Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Keeping Up with KP. We are officially in prep, week 1 of the deficit. This episode is less about prep starting and more about what the first real week inside it feels like. The structure and plan are in place and it's just me and my mind and how I'm choosing to move through it. I'm not really going to get into my nutrition or training in this episode because honestly, not much has changed. I'm also not going to be sharing feedback because I have a few more days until my check-in day. I just want to share a few things that have come up for me this week and kind of how this prep feels a little different. This transition from improvement season to prep so far has been pretty easy. I've done this enough times now that I know what to expect. However, every prep is different. Your body is different, your life is different, your circumstances are different. And for me this season, I feel like I'm in the best position I've ever been in, mentally, physically, emotionally. And although the last couple of months leading up to prep, I made some really big changes to my life. We went through a move, I changed my gym environment, we reorganized the business. And going through all that was really challenging, I will not lie. However, where I'm at right now, this is the most grounded and supported I have ever felt. So I understand now why all of that needed to happen, because I really feel like it set me up to have a really good season ahead. Reflecting a little, my hardest prep was my first prep with my coach. And the reason for that being, I was not in a great place going into it. My body composition was not in a great place. I did not have a proper off season leading into it. So I remember I was doing like 2-a-day cardio for quite a bit of that prep to get where I needed to be. And I got there. I just remember it was pretty hard. So when you do things the right way and you take your improvement season seriously and you have an improvement season, prep is still hard. It's just a different kind of hard. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like this prep doesn't really feel like a shock to my system. It just feels like a continuation of my improvement season. The goal is just different now. So I guess what feels the most different for me this season is how supported I feel. I feel like my mindset has kind of changed around prep too, where in the past I kind of like wanted it to be hard and I wanted to suffer and I wanted to struggle. Like I felt like if I wasn't doing it right. I think there comes a time in the journey where you can just let it be. You can let it be easier. You can let it be enjoyable. And I think that's where I'm really at. I do love the struggle. I love doing hard things. I love the challenge, but kind of reframing my mind to let myself enjoy the process. Another thing that's going to be a little different this season is my husband and I typically are always in prep. We're competing at the same time, with the exception of our first year in business. I took the entire year off and he competed. So I got to be like show wife that year, which was fun for me. It was different for me because I did have a little bit of FOMO. I felt like I was missing out a little bit, but it was necessary. I needed to take that time and I'm happy that, he got to have that too. I was able to step up in areas of the business to like really support him. But I've never had that because last year we both competed, which was fun in its own. It's just interesting because when you are a competitor and your significant other is a competitor, it can be really empowering, right? To go through this process alongside the person that you love. It can also be really hard. And I feel like relationships in the sport in general are just kind of interesting and you just kind of have to find your person and how to navigate it. But I feel like Ryan and I have always done a really good job at doing that. And last year was so much fun for us, honestly. It like really reconnected us to our why and it was really empowering, but there were parts of it that were pretty challenging as well. When you're both pushing your mind and your body to its limits, and then you're also the two people responsible for a new business. That was just kind of like an added layer of stress, right? That I'm happy we did it, but looking back, it's like, how did we do that? So all that to say, this year, Ryan will not be competing. He had to make the decision to take the year off. It's just kind of been a season for him and for us where we've had to prioritize his overall health and wellness to make sure that he is in a good place to really push his limits again. So he will not be competing this year, which kind of excites me a little bit because I've never had my own season. You know, I've had my own shows, but to have like a grounded, happy husband, not to say Ryan's not happy when he's in prep, but I feel like I'm much better at like being hungry and like going through it than him. Not that I'm a walk in the park, you know, I have my days, I can get irritable, but I think just not having that added layer of both of us going through it is gonna probably make mine go a little bit smoother. So that's just like the added layer around me feeling supported, is by like fully having my husband's support this season. And not just as a husband, but as a business partner. So, you know, that whole entire area of my life just feels a lot less stressful. So because we own a wellness and aesthetic center, I have access to things that I never really did before that, again, kind of complement this process, right? So comprehensive blood panels. I'm able to get blood work done whenever I want for very little cost. And like having that accessibility has been awesome. So I can share that with my coach, make sure we have a good and clean body of health no matter what phase of the journey that we're in. That has been huge. I have access to vitamin injections, peptides, IV therapy. I did a PRP hip injection once. Like, these are just things I have access to. I don't really use them all that much. I do NAD weekly. But other than that, it's really just routine, diet, training, all the things. We do have an in-body analysis. This isn't something I use very often. However, I have the last 3 years, because if you don't know, an in-body analysis basically measures your body composition. So it takes your weight, but it tells you what that number on the scale is made up of. So your skeletal muscle mass and where that lean mass is distributed throughout your body, and then also where your body fat lives. So I thought, you know, beginning this season, I would step on it and see where I'm at. So I did that this week. And it's funny because the last time that I stepped on it was 4 weeks into my rebound. So 4 weeks post show is the last time I stepped on it. The first time I stepped on it was in 2023. So I basically have 3 years worth of data and my starting points at each one of my prep and kind of throughout. I'll probably talk more later about the scale and kind of my relationship with it, because I did go from weighing myself weekly to now weighing myself daily, which has been really interesting for me. At this point, it's all just information, but had I not stepped on the in-body analysis, all I would know is that my body weight is up a couple of pounds from where I started last improvement season. Now from the photos, my body composition looks a lot better, but just kind of seeing the data is really interesting. So I'm gonna share that. We're gonna do my beginning of season in body. I do not know the last time I stepped on this. So it's a rest day. I am fasted, I have not yet eaten. I brought my meal into the office here. So I'm gonna just hop on here real quick and see where we're at the start of the season. Let's do it. So I have the last 3 years data here. So in 2024, around this time, I had 60.2 pounds of skeletal muscle mass. I was 129 pounds and my body fat percentage was 15.9%. That year, I did not compete. So I had a whole year improvement season. So in that whole year, this would be the beginning of March of 2025. So after one whole year of improving, I was at 64.2 pounds of muscle, 135.5 pounds, and 15.6% body fat. I was up about 5.5 pounds, 4.2 pounds of that being muscle,
and my body fat percentage was about the same. It was 15.6% body fat. That was after a year-long improvement season. I stepped on it a few times throughout my prep. I did it once in April, once in May. I competed in June and July. So what I was really looking at during prep was if my muscle mass was decreasing with my body fat, or if I was able to maintain that muscle. And what I found was after 2 months, my body fat went from 15.6 to 7.2. My muscle mass went from 64.2 to 66.6. So I lost about 8% body fat in 2 months, and I gained about 2.5 pounds of muscle during prep. And my weight went from 35.5 to 126, so about 10 pounds lost. I stepped on it again about 4 weeks after my last show to get a baseline for this improvement season. So my baseline 6 months ago, the last time I stepped on this, I was 131.7 pounds, 67.7 pounds of skeletal muscle mass, and my body fat percentage was 9.5. Okay, wait, so this is 6 months, my entire improvement season, from point A to end of improvement season, beginning of prep. And here is what happened. Okay, you guys, today I am 141.2 pounds. This was not completely fasted. I drank a lot of water this morning. My fasted weight this morning, because I am taking my weight daily right now, was 138.8. A lot of people get really obsessed with the number on the scale. I constantly have to remind and reassure my clients, like, your body weight fluctuates throughout the day. When you start eating, when you start drinking, the most accurate time to weigh yourself is fasted, obviously, in the morning before you start eating and drinking. So again, today, this morning, 10 a.m., I've been up since 7. That's been consistent across the board. All these I've done fasted. I've not eaten anything, but I have drank. It's been like in the morning around this time. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna like paint a clear picture, all right? Here are my metrics at the beginning of improvement season. And so 6 months later, my body weight is 141.2 pounds. My skeletal muscle mass is 70.3. And my body fat percentage is 11.7, according to this machine. So this is what I'm looking at right now, because I have this trend, right? The entirety of the last 2 years. In the last 6 months, I've increased my muscle mass by about 2.5 more pounds. So since 2024, I have gained 10 pounds of muscle. That's pretty crazy. But again, you guys, like, this is a tool, and it's not a tool that I use that often, obviously. Like, I have access to it every day, but you have to give yourself time to improve. 6 months of a really solid improvement season, starting off this improvement season at a really good body composition, is gonna make this prep so much easier, you guys. And that's really, like, this is just like reassuring and reinforcing a good improvement season. I was kind of shocked by how much better my body composition is going into the season. I didn't really have any expectations. I was like, okay, I'll just see. But it just excites me because I feel like I am supported in every area of my life. And I feel like I've supported myself by having a really solid improvement season. It feels really good going into a season like this. I just kind of wanted to share the ways that I'm taking inventory of my mental and emotional state going into the season. And how you're supported mentally, physically, emotionally is so much of it. So going into this season, I wanted to set some personal goals, and I'm somebody that just always wants to do better. So I was kind of thinking, like, how can I do that? What can I do better this time around? And I think that has required me to get like very honest with myself. And I think first and foremost, having an honest improvement season has really helped me with that. Being honest with myself, being honest with my coach, being clear and firm with my boundaries, just in all aspects of my life. I feel like for me personally, a struggle that I typically always have is my digestion. I feel like there's a few things like in season, off seasons, like kind of just bad habits that I lean into. But I really just want to focus on having great digestion, no bloating, like how I feel in my body
and is really important to me this time around. I feel like in other seasons, I've kind of cared more about enjoying my food and making my food taste better. So example would be like adding in sauces and lots of stevia and just needing that. And I kind of go through these waves where it's like, okay, you know what, I'm using way too much stevia. I can tell I'm bloated. I need to like back off a little bit. So in my improvement season, every couple weeks, I would like cut back on the stevia and I would feel like a significant difference, right? And so going into this prep, I'm like, I don't want to fuck around with this. That's the one variable I don't want to have to worry about this time, is like every couple weeks, like eliminating stevia because I'm so bloated. It's just less important that my food tastes good and exciting and I'm using spices and sauces and stevias because like honestly in my improvement season I didn't use any sauce. Last prep I did use sugar-free ketchup. You know immediately when you're like, there is a cost to what I'm doing, but I'm gonna suck it up because it's more important to me that my food tastes good than that I feel good in my body. I feel like I've kind of flipped the script this time. Like it's more important that I feel good in my body and that I don't feel bloated and, have that kind of added layer of frustration because I don't need it. It's not that important to me. In my improvement season, I was like loving my rice cold with stevia and like that was really enjoyable for me. And now I'm like, you know what? Let's kind of lay off and see what it's like to eat rice like a normal person. So I've been heating it up and just keeping it really plain, more so to like rebuild that trust with myself. Because I feel like when you are constantly leaning into these habits and you're constantly bloated and you're constantly having these problems, it gets really frustrating. So going without and kind of just like rebuilding that trust with your body is something that I've done this week. So my plan is to stick with that throughout. I have not used one stevia packet this week. The only artificial sweeteners I have are in my pre-workout. I do a non-stim and then I also do an essential amino acids while I'm training, and those both have it in it. And I'm planning to limit myself to 1 zero sugar Gatorade and 1 probably Fresca or zero sugar soda pop of choice for now. In previous preps, I would allow myself to have like 2 a day. And so far, eliminating the stevia and keeping in my carbonation at the end of the day, my bloating has been way down. So I don't really think it's the carbonation that is causing the issues. I think it's the overuse of stevia, to be honest with you. The other thing is caffeine. And in December, like going through our move, I was drinking a lot of caffeine. And it was like pouring gasoline on the fire. It was affecting my sleep. It was affecting my anxiety. It was affecting all the things. And like, I love a good energy drink, don't get me wrong. Specifically, Ghost. I used to be a Celsius girl, but the Ghosts are really good, you guys, in my personal and professional opinion, okay? But towards the end of December, I was drinking like 2 a day. Since January 1, I have not had one energy drink. I have cut way back on my caffeine intake. And that's another thing that I kind of would abuse in previous preps. So I think going into this season as like a good old palate cleanse, prioritizing my gut health, like really trying, like I really want to have good core control this year. So that's something I'm really trying to just prioritize in everyday life. I'm tired of being the person that's like, I have digestive issues, when the reality is, do I? So just kind of like trying to control these variables and like really prioritize like how I'm feeling over everything. That's how I know I can do better than I have done in previous preps. So I would say that's like the one like personal thing with myself that I'm like gonna really work on and work towards. And honestly, like halfway into week 1, I'm like, this is not hard at all. I wish I would have done this a long time ago because I'm feeling like really good in my body right now. So the other realization that I had is in my improvement season, I did not drink any alcohol, and I actually have not drank any alcohol since our anniversary in 2025. So it has been a year since I drank. I'm never gonna be somebody that like posts like I'm 1 year sober. Like I feel like when you do that, people kind of assume you have a drinking problem. I don't feel that I've ever had a drinking problem. I think I would default to alcohol and food just the same to take the edge off of whatever I was going through. You know, these are habits, these are mindsets, these are things that a lot of people do. But I feel like I got to a point just where I'm at in my life and how I need to show up in my life as a business owner, like in the roles that I'm in. And I feel like everyone's on their own health, wellness, and fitness journey. And like specifically with alcohol, because you use it to socialize, you use it to celebrate, and then you also use it to decompress. And I certainly did do that since a pretty young age, honestly. I worked in industries, the restaurant industry. I worked at a salon that had a nightclub above it. Like I was just kind of always surrounded by that in all of the work that I was doing. And it wasn't until I switched my work that I was less surrounded by it. But then it's also kind of was a big part of the relationships in my life. When health, wellness, and fitness, you know, started becoming more and more important to me, it was easy to recognize like how that was impacting me. All that to say, my last drink, I was on an island in a different country celebrating my wedding anniversary with my husband. And at that point, I didn't really enjoy it. You know, I think when you go 6 months or an entire competition season without having alcohol and then you have it again, you realize how shitty it makes you feel. And for me, like, yeah, definitely physically, but the reason for me that I started drinking it less and less was because of the mental aspect. I would really be down for days after I would have alcohol, and I would just like, I really lost that trust with myself. Because for me, it was never just like a 1 day thing. It was like the 3 days following, I would just be so down. It would really impact my mental state, especially being an entrepreneur and creative and being on social media. Like it would really mess with my head about like posting and the ideas that I had. Like I was just like constantly second guessing myself and having like these negative, I don't want to say voices because that makes me sound like schizophrenic, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like you just have this negative self-talk, and it's like I just lost so much trust with myself when alcohol was a constant in my life. I think it really held me back from a lot of things. And the space between an idea and execution would just be like so much wider for me and harder to get myself there when I was like constantly going through this cycle, right? And so I actually had a conversation recently with a friend of mine, my old assistant, and I was kind of just like updating him on all the trials and tribulations that I've been going through. And he was just like, can I get you a Xanax? Can I get you a glass of wine? Like, what can I get you? Like, what are you doing to like get through this and just like take the edge off? And I was like, nothing. I'm just feeling it all. I'm just going through it. And I think that's like the healthiest place to be in, because what happens when you default to taking the edge off, because really what's happening is you are being pushed to a point in your life where you are uncomfortable, and taking the edge off just helps you tolerate it. Whereas when you have that edge, you are pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed to that point of discomfort where you need to make a change. And I think when we're constantly taking the edge off, it's really keeping us where we are, and it's not allowing us to grow. Like you need discomfort to grow. And when you're not allowing yourself to get uncomfortable, you're just gonna tolerate it. So this was just like a pretty big realization for me this year. Again, I'm not celebrating a year of sobriety, but I am celebrating a year of letting myself fully feel things. And I'm celebrating a year of trusting myself. I think that's pretty huge. I think this season of life for me, it just does not serve me whatsoever. Life is long. That may change. I don't know, but that's where I'm at. And I feel like it feels like a really powerful place to be. So yeah, really week 1, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really excited for what's to come. I'm feeling really proud of myself for where I'm at. I think there's been a big shift this year, for sure. I think my goals for this year are just to let it be good and to enjoy it and to share it and not be attached to the outcome. Because I feel like going into a season, just being so secure with yourself and feeling so supported and just like not being afraid to say it out loud. Like, I feel like in the past I'd be like, oh my God, I don't want to jinx myself. I don't want to say all these things. But it's like, no, that's the reality. That's how I feel. I feel like I have earned to have a season like this. I feel happy, I feel excited, and I couldn't feel more supported. So that's really all I wanted to share this week. I'm looking forward to getting some week 1 feedback. As we get more into it, there will definitely be more to share. But for now, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share, follow me on Instagram, follow me on TikTok. That's all for this week, and I'll see you guys in the next one.